to a vlog. I'm a mess. My computer's broken. Happy New Year! I'm also currently reading 2 books, but after that I don't really know exactly what I want to read. I've done a January to be read video, but that's more of a ballpark of all the things that I've got on my mind rather than everything that I'm exactly going to read, because I like to leave space to mood read. And so currently I've got 70 pages left of my reread of Iron Flame, which I'm reading before Onyx Storm comes out on the 21st of January. So I'm, you know, almost finished with this, but for some reason physically reading is just taking me so long for ridiculous reasons. Like, I don't know why it's taking me so long. So I'm anticipating that I'm finishing this in the next couple of days. And then I've also got an audiobook, which is my standard. I usually have a few things going at the same time, and that is the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which is surprisingly, like, I don't hate it. I was expecting to hate it because it has been recommended by BookTok, and generally my enjoyments do not align with BookTok, but this one is like a 3.5 stars, and it's about Jeannie. She not inherits, but her aunt gives her this cafe called the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. It's in Dream Harbor, which is this small town, and she moves back there from Boston, and she's got to essentially run this cafe, and she's never done that before. So she's learning who all the locals are, and on the first night that she's there, she hears weird noises in her alleyway, and she gets up and has a baseball bat, and she's like, am I gonna get murdered? And it's actually just this guy Logan, who is the love interest, and he is a local farmer and he's delivering a whole bunch of fresh produce to her. So they get off on almost the wrong foot, but they end up becoming obviously friends. They've both got an obvious attraction for each other. Logan is the kind of character who is a bit grumpy and standoffish, but he's all heart and he falls very fast. So he's very much already in love with her, and she's like, I don't want to commit too much because if I commit, everyone in this small town is going to be very aware and like watching the relationship. So they propose a secret relationship, and you can already tell that this is not going to be the way that they thought. It's probably going to be a train wreck. So depending on how the last act of the book goes, I might stick to 3.5 stars. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm going to continue yet either. So I've got an hour left, I think, of that one. And like I said, it's fun and I'm enjoying it, and it's not taking itself too seriously. But then after that book, I'm really not sure what to pick up. I don't have anything else out on hold from Libby in my library, so I've got to wait for a few releases to come through, and then I've also got time before Onyx Storm comes out on Audible for me, so I need to fill that space with something, but I'm sure that will eventuate throughout this vlog, so I will keep you updated. I'm mostly just filming this vlog because I'm frustrated that my PC is broken, because I paid like $1,600 literally an hour ago for it to get fixed. It needs 3 new parts and I am suffering, so is my wallet, but hopefully it is fixed soon. I do have a workaround. Thankfully I can use some of Dave's laptop and his PC to help me do some editing, but it means that my process will be a lot slower than usual because I'm using stuff that I'm not as familiar with. So it's just generally frustrating. Anyway, I'm sure it will be fixed soon. Touch wood, touch wood. I'm annoyed, but I'm sure that I can channel that frustration into my reading instead. I made this today. These are cinnamon scroll cakes, but I don't have icing sugar for the sauce, so they're not quite finished. But this is the state of my kitchen. So I think it's audiobook time while I clean. It is several hours later, and I think the tea cake in the book vaguely resembles what I've cooked. My kitchen is now clean too, by the way. Yay! But look at this. They look edible, which I'm excited for. The true taste test will be tomorrow when we take them to the family's pizza gathering and then eat them for dessert. I'm really looking forward to cutting them open. An update is overdue because I haven't sat down for a few days in front of the camera. I'm still very annoyed that my PC is not working. This vlog is supposed to kind of distract me. It's only mildly working, but we did go to the beach to see family a couple of days ago, and we got to go for a bit of a dip in the water and walk through and have a look at the ocean, and it was so hot, and I was not on camera because the humidity was high and I looked like my hair was a poodle like Mufasa. So I stayed very much off camera, but I must also report that my cake was a success. So that worked out, thankfully. First time I'd ever made it. And I also finished a few books and I started a few books, so I should probably update you on what I'm reading at the moment. I actually can't remember the last audiobook that I talked about because I haven't started editing this vlog yet, so prepare for a mess. I'll go for my physical read first, and that is Iron Flame, which I have recently finished my reread of, and for some reason, I guess because I was busy, it took me like 5 days to read 25 pages, but I have finally finished it, and it is less now than a week until Onyx Storm. So I finished it well before Onyx Storm came out, which was my goal. I then finished 2 romance audiobooks. So I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, which is about Daphne and Miles and their partners break up with them and get together, and now they're like, well, we need to live somewhere. So Daphne moves in with Miles, and their humor and their connection was so sweet and silly and beautiful, and I just really enjoyed them getting together. It's supposed to be Funny Story, like a bit ridiculous, and it pulled off that ridiculous tone with also having a real deep development of the characters and their connection. So I ended up giving that like a 4.5 stars. And then I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I actually enjoyed myself, which is like a shock, horror, surprise. I did not expect that at all. I expected to put it down in the first couple of percent, but I finished it and I had fun with it. I don't think I would necessarily continue. It was cozy and sweet. There was naturally miscommunication in the book because in a romance story, usually in the 3rd arc, the characters have a fight, and then all of the things they were building up to, they then go their separate ways and then come back together afterwards and make up. And I personally just hate that about romance. Like, if you are getting together with somebody that you are saying that you love, and then something comes up that you just cannot communicate about and you both cut and run, I'm like, you're not mature enough to be in a relationship. That's the point of a relationship, that you actually talk to each other. So that was a bit disappointing. It was expected, but still disappointing. I think me reading it during the summer in Australia when it's really hot, and reading about autumn or fall, and then like eating baked goods and drinking hot drinks and wearing sweaters, I was like, it doesn't really fit the vibe. But if you're wanting to read it during a cozy month, then it really checks out. So I gave it, I think, a 3 stars. And then I tried A Fate Inked in Blood, and this was also on my January to be read list. So I'm really sweeping through my January books, and I got 2% into this romantasy story and I went, I think I hate it, and I put it down. And let me tell you why. It is because our main character has been forced to marry this guy that is abusive. He's got a magical ability that means he can exercise his power over their village. So he's got a magical ability over either animals or water, which means he can pull all the fish out of the ocean and the river that he chooses, but he can also make it so that other people can't do that, so they naturally have all the power because he has access to resources that nobody else does. So with that tipping of balance of power, he's become really wealthy. He's also abusive to our main character. He has been sleeping with her without her consent for the past year, and she justifies this by saying that she's been using this contraceptive, but he doesn't know. So he's been trying to get her with child, and she has been like, I know that that won't happen. And I'm like, that's pretty terrible, generally, as an understatement. At the beginning of the book, he also threatens her with a knife to her face as if to cut her cheek open, and then as a punishment, while she's gutting fish, he pulls all these extra fish out of the river or the ocean. So he's just wasted a whole bunch of resources and her time. So she's trying to throw a bunch of fish back into the water, and as she does, she throws one into the face of this hot guy who she immediately has an attraction to. He's some sort of warrior, and I'm like, what a meet cute, throwing a animal that is dying into the face of your future partner. Anyway, I was like, this is a terrible premise. I'm not sold at all. I'm out, I'm done, and that was 2% in. Next up, I am going to start a new audiobook, which is People We Meet in Vacation by Emily Henry, because Emily Henry has been pretty great for me so far. I've been enjoying her work a lot. And then physically, I thought I should probably get my act together and read something on my to be read cart. So I picked up The Song Rising, which I temporarily put down in 2024, and I got about 30-ish pages into it. I'm now 42 pages into it. I forgot that it was so fast to read, and it's not very thick, so I'm hoping that I can read this either before I start Onyx Storm, because I'll start that as an audiobook, or, you know, in tandem with Onyx Storm, because it's a different format, so I'll be reading it at different times during my day. But I'm anticipating that Onyx Storm is going to give me heart palpitations, so if I get that physically, I might end up switching from the audio to the physical book, but for the moment it's going to be The Song Rising, which is the 3rd book in the Bone Season series, if that wasn't clear, and I don't want to talk about the 3rd in the series because obviously it will spoil everything else. So it's been a few days again since I updated this vlog. I've since finished the Emily Henry book that I mentioned, and I gave it a 3 stars. It's not my favourite over Emily Henry's. The miscommunication that always happens in a romance in that 3rd act, it was just not quite as seamless as she's done in the past. I think my favourite by her would be Funny Story. But I'll no doubt talk about all of the books that I finished in a greater detail in my January wrap up, so keep your eyes open for that. But what I did do is I was listening to Onyx Storm, and the narrator for that audiobook tends to speed up when things are getting more intense, and it was giving me heart palpitations and stressing me out. So instead of listening to the audiobook, I switched to the physical book instead, and it's been a much better time for me. I'm enjoying myself, obviously, and I've now got 50 pages left. So I'm not freaking out at all at the fact that a lot could go down in the last 50 pages, and Rebecca Yarros has killed characters off before, so I'm really nervous. At the moment this is sitting at 4 stars and I'm really greatly enjoying myself. So I'm hoping that my enjoyment lasts for the last 50 pages that I've got to read. Additionally, I also talked about the song Rising in some previous clips, and I got, I think, 130 pages into this one, 128 pages, and it just feels like I'm bored by it. At the moment I want to give it a 3 stars, but part of my brain is going, well, you're not enjoying it, why isn't it a 2-star rating? But it's not an actively like bad book per se. It's got a great detail to it, it's got awesome world building. I just really don't care about all of the side characters and where this particular moment of the story is going, and I think that's the problem, and it's why I have put it down in favour of reading Onyx Storm, because obviously Onyx Storm is so fast paced and there is something happening all the time that I'm way more invested in that story, and especially I'm more emotionally invested in that story. But for this, while I enjoy the characters, while I like Paige, the main character, I just don't feel as enamored by this. And I'm not entirely sure why. I remember really liking the next book in the series, which is The Mask Falling. I remember enjoying this in the past because this is the revised edition, so it's a little bit more fleshed out in different areas, and I don't necessarily think that's the problem. Like, it needed a little bit more fleshing out, but at the same time I'm just not super invested in it, which is disappointing. I don't think I'm going to finish it during the month of January, which is what I hoped I would do before starting Onyx Storm, but clearly this is going to creep over into my February TBR, which isn't mildly disappointing to me, but given that it's short, I'll just push through it and make myself read it, because I've got The Mask Falling and then the next book in the series coming out at the end of February, so surely I'll have more to continue. But maybe if I don't love The Mask Falling as much, why would I continue reading the series? So jury is still out. Hopefully I still like The Mask Falling after finishing this one, but at the moment really it's Onyx Storm which is my main focus, because I am going crazy for this book. I'm having so much fun talking to friends about it and just thinking of different theories and where the series could go next. It's got 2 more books to come out that don't have any release dates whatsoever, so it's just really exciting to read and buddy read at the same time as so many people. I feel like everyone's reading this at the moment, so it's just been a great experience, honestly. Another great occurrence that happened is that I am no longer angry because my PC was fixed. It took a total of 2 weeks for this to finally be fixed, and it was an agonizing 2 weeks, but we finally got there, and now I can edit on my own computer again, which is honestly a godsend. Hi friend! Ezekiel is back.
Here you go.
Giving him
just want some water.
Some water.
It's okay.
Water and seed.
Wait for a meeting because I have to feed Ezekiel.
Priorities. I need to report that I finally finished Onyx Storm, and oh my goodness, turning that last page, expecting more, and then getting the acknowledgements was like a punch in the face. I'm not okay. I gave this a 4 stars. I loved it. There was still parts of the story that didn't feel quite as seamless to me, so I couldn't quite give it a 5 stars, but it was still a pretty high 4 stars and I had a great time. This is probably my favorite book, or like my second favorite book that I read in January. Probably my first favorite would be Funny Story, and then this one's a very close second. So I had some great reads during the month, and this vlog I only meant for it to go for like a week and a half, and I accidentally dragged it out for the whole month. So if you look at my January wrap up, it pretty much covers all of my major thoughts about each of those books in a lot more detail than this, but I guess if you watch my vlog you can see me flip-flopping back and forth. But anyway, I love this. I have so many theories. I want the next book immediately. There is no release date. Am I okay? No. But that's the sign of a good book, I guess. But that brings me to the end of this vlog. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.